He details every step, she detailed every step of the attempt to overthrow the election because it's so close to the election.
No, who's more famous than you? You are the most famous man in the world. What are you talking about? Who's more famous? I said, Jesus Christ.
And the voters, they get it. They've read it, they get it. And it's already come out. Every single channel is calling it election interference. Ready?
Imagine being Melania Trump right now. Your husband just got slapped with a $464 million fraud judgment. Jimmy Kimmel is on TV joking about how you'll get half of nothing in your upcoming divorce. And Jim Carrey is drawing your husband as a killer clown. This isn't just another celebrity feud. It's a masterclass in how comedy can cut through political armor. Trump's response to Kimmel and Carrey shows exactly why these jokes landed so perfectly. Let's break down this epic roast and Trump's furious comeback that proves they touched a nerve. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So did you click the subscribe button? Great. Thank you so much. Now, back to the video. Jimmy Kimmel just launched what might be his most devastating attack yet on the Trump marriage, and it's left the former president absolutely fuming. After Trump was slapped with that massive $464 million fraud judgment, Kimmel couldn't resist twisting the knife with a joke that hit two sensitive spots at once: Trump's wallet and his notoriously awkward marriage.
Canada, they are busy sandbagging the border right now. For everyone who says they're going to move there, no, you are not. We are not welcome in Canada. For 60 days prior to an election, the Department of Injustice is supposed to do absolutely nothing that would taint or interfere with said election. His plan was to go home to Mar-a-Lago, play 5,000 rounds of golf, phone into Trump TV every morning for 10 years, and then die on the toilet. That was his plan.
Poor Melania, Kimmel quipped during his monologue. If she divorces him now, she'll only get half of nothing. The audience roared, but you can bet they weren't laughing at Mar-a-Lago. The timing couldn't have been worse for Trump. Just as his financial empire faces serious questions, Kimmel reminds everyone about his seemingly loveless marriage too. What makes Kimmel's jokes about the Trump marriage so effective is that they tap into something viewers can see with their own eyes. We've all witnessed those uncomfortable moments when Melania swats away Trump's hand during public appearances. Those weren't just one-off incidents. They've become a pattern that Kimmel has expertly documented through his comedy over the years. Kimmel has built an entire comedy arsenal around the Trump marriage. He once described Melania during Trump's speeches as resembling a phone with 1% battery life, desperately trying to make it last. Anyone who's watched Melania's face during those endless Trump rallies knows exactly what he means. That frozen smile that seems to be counting down the seconds until she can escape. The comedian doesn't stop there. He's observed that Melania treats Trump's hand like it was covered in expired ketchup whenever he reaches for her. It's the kind of vivid comedy that works because there's a kernel of truth beneath it. These aren't just jokes, they're commentary on real moments captured by news cameras and endlessly replayed on social media. What's especially brutal about Kimmel's approach is how he zeroes in on Melania's expressions. He's highlighted her dying of misery look that surfaces whenever she's trapped at official events with Trump. It's comedy that resonates because viewers have seen that same pained expression themselves, wondering what's really going through her mind as she stands beside her husband. The marriage has been such rich comedy territory that Kimmel even joked about Melania potentially outsourcing her marital obligations in a future tell-all book. Each punchline builds on this narrative of a marriage existing in name only, a political partnership rather than a love match. Trump, for all his bluster about winning and success, seems unable to convince his own wife to hold his hand willingly. But this latest half of nothing joke cuts deeper than all the previous material. Why? Because it perfectly combines Trump's two biggest insecurities in just 6 words. First, it questions his wealth, suggesting he might actually be broke after the fraud judgment. Second, it treats his divorce from Melania as not just possible but expected. For a man who measures his worth through money and trophy wives, it's a 1-2 punch he can't easily shrug off. This latest joke feels different because it arrived at Trump's most vulnerable moment. His financial empire is under unprecedented scrutiny, with a court declaring his business valuations were massively inflated. The last thing he needs is comedy reminding everyone that his marriage looks just as shaky as his balance sheet.
They rigged the election. The election was rigged. I didn't rig it, they did.
He's actually right about some of that. He didn't rig the election. He tried to rig the election.
Wow, what the hell happened? The hats worked, those stupid hats. Those hats that look like they were printed at a kiosk in the middle of a Westfield mall.
They rigged the election. I didn't rig the election. They rigged the election. What they do is they rig the election and then they go around getting people and persecuting people and prosecuting people that did nothing wrong.
What really seems to bother Trump about these marriage jokes is that they strip away his carefully constructed image. He wants to be seen as the ultimate alpha male with the beautiful model wife. But Kimmel's comedy portrays him as an unwanted husband whose wife can barely tolerate being in the same room with him. For someone obsessed with appearances, that's unbearable. If words wound Trump's ego, imagine what actual visual proof of his failures does to him. Jim Carrey, yes, the same guy who once talked through his butt in Ace Ventura, transformed himself from rubber-faced comedian to Trump's worst artistic nightmare. Turns out the man who gave us "Alrighty Then" can also create scathing political artwork that shows Trump exactly how the world sees him. Carrey didn't just randomly pick up painting as a hobby. His artistic journey began years before Trump took office. But when the Orange Menace entered the White House, Carrey found the perfect subject for his paintbrush. Trump's presidency became Carrey's twisted muse, inspiring dozens of unflattering portraits that capture the essence of our former commander in tweet. What makes Carrey's artistic takedown so powerful is how he elevates simple mockery into something more permanent. These aren't just doodles on a napkin, they're full-blown paintings that have been displayed in actual galleries. One of his most memorable pieces shows Trump as a deranged jack-o'-lantern with nuclear codes, the orange face glowing with maniacal rage. Another portrays him as the Wicked Witch of the West Wing, complete with melting features and a crowd of tiny associates scurrying around his feet like flying monkeys. The imagery in Carrey's work is impossible to unsee once you've viewed it. In one particularly cutting piece, he depicts Trump as a melanoma spreading across the face of democracy, literally showing the president's face as a cancerous growth on America. It's the kind of visual metaphor that sticks with you long after you've scrolled past it, which is exactly what makes it so effective as criticism. While comedians like Kimmel deliver jokes that fade away after the laugh, Carrey creates lasting evidence of Trump's presidency that will be preserved in art books and digital archives forever. His paintings don't just exist in the moment, they become part of the historical record, documenting Trump's era in ways that future generations will study when trying to understand what the hell was happening in America during these years. Some of Carrey's most brutal portrayals tap into his own cinematic past to deliver their message. His killer clown Trump portrait references both his history in comedic films and paints Trump as a sinister figure hiding behind a facade. The painting shows Trump with exaggerated clown makeup, his mouth twisted in a grotesque smile while his eyes remain cold and calculating. It's Pennywise meets politics, and it's downright disturbing. What really sets Carrey's artistic assault apart from late-night comedy is how it positions Trump not just as a ridiculous figure, but as an existential threat. In interviews about his artwork, Carrey has described Trump's presidency as an extinction-level event for American democracy. His paintings don't just mock, they warn. They're not asking for a chuckle, they're sounding an alarm. The contrast between Carrey's past as the lovable goofball in Dumb and Dumber and his current role as one of Trump's most serious artistic critics makes his work even more powerful. Americans who grew up laughing at Carrey's physical comedy now find themselves nodding grimly at his political artwork. That transformation from beloved comedian to sharp-eyed political commentator gives his criticism a special kind of weight. Trump, of course, can't stand it. While he can dismiss a comedian's joke as not funny or low ratings, art criticism hits differently. These paintings will outlast his presidency, potentially hanging in galleries or reproduced in books about this bizarre chapter in American history. When future students learn about the Trump years, they might very well see Trump through Jim Carrey's unflattering lens first. What really drives Trump nuts about Carrey's artwork is that it can't be dismissed as just a joke. It's preserved as cultural commentary, a visual record of how a significant artist viewed this presidency. While Trump can try to control his image through friendly media outlets and staged photo ops, he's powerless against an artist with Carrey's platform and talent who can show the world exactly what he sees behind the MAGA facade. While Trump's artwork roasts are bad enough, his reaction to comedians tells us even more about his fragile ego. For a guy who brags about being tough and stable, watching him fall apart over jokes is like seeing a toddler insist he's not tired while literally falling asleep during his tantrum. And when it comes to comedians, Trump loses his cool faster than an ice cream cone in July. His response to Kimmel and Carrey wasn't just defensive, it was what experts describe as a full meltdown mode, complete with furious ranting and desperate damage control. Most politicians would ignore jokes or laugh them off, but not Trump. He takes the bait every single time, spiraling into defensive tirades that only prove the comedian's points. Trump's go-to move is attacking comedians with childish nicknames, calling them no-talent Kimmel and washed-up Carrey. It's like watching a 5th grader's attempt at a comeback, except this 5th grader once had access to nuclear codes. The funny thing is, these weak comebacks just give comedians more ammunition. They can literally set their watches by his predictable outbursts. What's especially revealing is how Trump defends his marriage. Instead of showing genuine moments of connection with Melania, he repeatedly insists, "She loves me, we have a great marriage." It's all about appearances rather than anything real. It's like someone claiming they have friends while standing alone at a party. The more you have to say it, the less convincing it sounds. Perhaps the most bizarre part of Trump's comedian meltdowns is his claim that he could have been a great comedian and is actually funnier than both of them. Yeah, sure, and I could have been an Olympic athlete if I didn't prefer nachos and Netflix. Trump thinking he's funnier than professional comedians is like me thinking I could perform brain surgery because I once played Operation. The delusion would be funny if it weren't so sad. When Trump can't defend his marriage with anything substantial, he does what every insecure person does. He changes the subject. Suddenly, he's bragging about election results or crowd sizes that have absolutely nothing to do with his relationship. My wife loves me, and also I had the biggest inauguration crowd ever. It's the conversational equivalent of pulling the fire alarm when you're losing an argument. The thing about comedy is that it strips away the careful image management Trump has built his entire life around. He can control friendly media outlets, he can stage photo ops, he can have people sign NDAs, but he can't stop people from laughing at him, and that drives him absolutely nuts. What's truly fascinating is how this cycle keeps repeating. Trump reacts badly to jokes, which only confirms they hit a nerve, which inspires more jokes, which triggers more bad reactions. It's the comedy equivalent of putting a microphone next to a speaker. The feedback just gets louder and more painful. The difference is, Trump never learns to move the microphone. This pattern reveals something deeper than just thin skin. It shows a man who cannot tolerate any perception of himself that doesn't match his inflated self-image. When comedians point out the emperor has no clothes, a mental image nobody wanted, Trump doesn't just disagree, he has a complete meltdown because they're challenging the very foundation of his identity. What we're seeing with Kimmel and Carrey isn't just comedy gold, it's political power in action. Comedy has always been a weapon against the mighty, and these comedians are carrying on a tradition as old as politics itself. When they get under Trump's skin, they're doing what political comedians like Jon Stewart and Stephen Colbert perfected, using laughter as a truth serum. The beauty of comedy and politics is how it disarms both the audience and the target. Trump can dismiss serious criticism as fake news, but when people are laughing at his expense, that defense mechanism falls apart. Research shows humor makes audiences more receptive to critical messages, which explains why Grumpy Trumpy gets his orange knickers in such a twist. So while Trump tries to control his image with angry tweets and all caps rants, the comedians are winning the battle for public perception. In the end, history remembers the jokes, not the tantrums. As this comedy feud continues, Trump might be the president of his own reality, but comedians will always be the kings and queens of the last laugh.